We are back with the Me Truth, and I got Mark, my right-hand man.
You know it. Hey, happy Thursday, everyone.
Happy Thursday.
Hey, we're going to have Steve, I want to talk about, I want us to start talking about 2024 a little bit tonight.
It's getting dicey.
It's definitely, the pool's getting full on the Republican side.
I'd say not only is it getting full, but it's getting red, very red. A lot of blood being shed right now.
Yep, absolutely.
And I honestly think the people holding the knife are not our own party. It's the Democrats. They are cutting and slicing and dicing anybody they can out of the campaign, and they're going with numero uno, Donald Trump. And it seems like it is making national news at every turn. I saw a clip the other day where Joe Biden specifically stated that he was going to ensure that he would not be able to run in the race.
Yeah.
And now you're watching the FBI unfold. So you have to ask yourself, many months ago, where he makes a bold statement like that, to today, knowing that he himself had documents at his own garage.
I mean,
what's good for the goose is not good for the gander, folks.
I mean, where is our politics gone? I mean, it is absolutely gone off the rails. This is Stalinist Russia, Stalinist USSR, come to life in the modern age, and if you look at everything they're doing, you talk about the Nazis did it, right? The things that the Democratic Party are doing today, the Nazis did it in Germany. Now, I don't want to compare them to the Nazi Party because they're not going out and, at least not yet, they're not herding people together and to go take them off the death camps. This is a separate issue, but we're talking about political tactics.
Yeah, racing history is not good. We've learned this over and over again. We are,
the erasing history, the taking over the schools and the narrative in the schools and teaching indoctrinating your children.
Speaking of indoctrinating, you can't visit the White House in a large group, but you can have disgrace at the White House in the lawn by these woke organizations, and specifically last week with the LGBTQ community, and the guy openly flashes his breast near the president of the United States.
I mean, that's what it's fallen to.
Anarchy are we in, man?
This is like
we made a fit about them overtaking the.
This is like
Capitol.
Batman Returns, right?
Yeah.
It's like you remember in the final episode of Batman Returns, and that they let all the prisoners out.
Yep.
And they filled the streets with prisoners and anarchists and things, and they were having their own courts. Right, and remember, I can't remember his name. The Scarecrow.
Yeah, Bane.
No, Scarecrow. Scarecrow was the judge.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
I
So Bane was out doing the muscle.
Yeah, that's right.
But the Scarecrow was over. This is what we're seeing.
It's ugly.
It's not to that level as far as the total anarchy, but it's the beginnings of it. It's prosecutors going after people just over any little thing. It's like, I could take, if you're a Republican in New York right now, don't get a speeding ticket.
Nope.
No, don't
brother.
get a speeding ticket. You
Reckless
don't know where you're gonna
driving.
And they think, and they're doing this under the guise that, that's how black people were treated forever, and still to this day in the South. That's not true. It's absolutely a lie. Those minorities and even LGBTQ people are not do not have that happen to them today. The last time you heard something in the news.
As far as I will tell you from a personal perspective, I have a lot of friends in both communities, and I'm very open about how I feel about LGBTQ. But I love you, man. Good luck, woman. Good luck. But for my African American friends, there is a struggle still. And I've seen this all over the United States, but
I'm not saying there's not.
No, but
it's not like this. It's not like 1960s.
No, it's not the 1960s, but there is still
they use that as an excuse.
Not them. There is a stir up that gets the less educated spun up, right, oppressed or whatever, and spun up to their favor in the Democratic Party. But even the educated minorities understand that they still have to be cautious. They still have to have these conversations with their kids because it happens. But from a holistic perspective of how it gets driven, I can tell you it's very much real in the United States that our African American population are faced with that adversity. They're having to teach their kids to be prepared for it. They're educating their kids, though. The educated are educating their kids that it doesn't have to be this way. How you respond matters. But if you go, put your hands on the steering wheel.
I remember
we teach our own white kids, put your hands on the steering wheel. If you get a ticket, make sure the officer knows that you're not going to do anything stupid and crazy.
Listen, I know that people of color go through, get a lot more hate against them, especially from people who have taken advantage of their own authority. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Those are individual people, and we should eliminate those people from places of authority.
Absolutely.
Not from the planet, but
yeah. We could do that too. But
I mean, we can discuss that. But that's punishment is I don't think it's a death penalty thing. But
no.
But what I'm talking about is I remember the Klan protesting the busing in Louisville. I remember it. I was
very predominant in Kentucky. I was mentioning this on a podcast before where there was a deed that strictly prohibited a black person from owning property in a community.
Right.
And I was like,
that's the stuff that we fought against. White, black,
people like
whatever.
you and I fought against. Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter. The skin color should not matter, and it doesn't matter. The thing is that. No, I don't know of anybody that fears a black person for being black. What people fear is they don't know how those people feel about them, right? When you walk down the street, you don't know if that person is upset because you're a white person walking down the street. You don't know that because all the things you hear.
Yeah.
Right. All the things
everything that's gotten stirred up that makes everything divisive.
Let me finish my point because I don't want to leave that hanging up there. Is they have a conversation from their point of view, and we have a conversation from our point of view, and what it is that it goes like you can say, well, you're not allowed to, if I say, well, I have black friends, how can I be racist? Well, you're a racist, because you don't embrace all black people, but that's not true. It has nothing to do with your skin color. It has to do with whether or not I can. Just
because our values don't align does not mean that I'm a racist.
Well, it's not just values. It's just our way of. Man, values is one way to look at it, I guess, but. I'm looking at it from a point of view, and this is not where I was going to go with this conversation today, but
boy, it started.
But it's here, and so. But what I believe is this: I believe that all people should be given a chance, no matter what. All people should be given the equal opportunity and chance to make their way in society. If whether it doesn't matter what color you are or what have you, and there are for every black person that's in poverty, there's like 3 white people in poverty. There's more white people in poverty than black people.
But I don't know those statistics. Let's see.
I mean, look it up.
Hold on, I'm gonna do
I think
how many.
It's like if you look at the poverty line, I looked it up a couple weeks ago. Maybe it's
are we talking in Kentucky?
I'm talking about all over. Yeah, I'm all over the United States, but. You just look at the poverty line and how many people are in there. It's in the census.
It's 2021. I think is the closest thing. First look, it's
the 2020 census happened in 2021. So yeah.
Okay, except all here it goes. American Indian and Alaska Native is in poverty. It's 25%, 24.3%. Black is at 19.5. White alone, non-Hispanic is 8.2. So I'd say that the black poverty.
No.
It's
Now you're looking at a percentage of the of their population.
I got you. Okay, but I got it. Percent of the population.
There are 54% or something like that white people in the United States.
See, this
white,
is
non-Hispanic.
see this same conversation like you talk about in the military about sexual assault. The women's sexual assault percentage is much higher, but it's actually a lower percentage for males. But more males are sexually assaulted than females, and
Because there's more of them.
More of them.
The population is higher.
So hold on, let me see what that is. Let's see if it'll give me a breakdown.
The black population, if you look at just black, not Hispanic or what have you, it's is around 13%.
Well, black is 19.5 and 8.2 for white, but it's how many whites and how many blacks is
Correct.
that in total? It doesn't additional information. Let me see. Oh, I got to register for free. Statia. Hold on. Income poverty in the United States.
I mean, you could have looked at. I looked it up in. I had looked it up in the Census Bureau directly. So
I'm not that fast. Hold on, let's see.
let me see if I can.
Anyway, okay, so definitely a different group, but when you get in the conversation,
my point is that.
But I want to go to the LGBT because our state legislatures have fought to put a clear line between man and woman in sports and all that other stuff, and it gets very clouded as to, everybody wants to preach that we are fair and equal treatment to race, color, creed, and religion, right? And gender. But the gender lines are getting confusing. Wouldn't you agree?
I think it's like what I think is this. If you protect a group, if our government puts together a protection for a certain group, more and more people want to be in that group. So
because they're protected.
So more and more men want to be protected under the women's group to be able to have like Title IX. So they're taking advantage of Title IX because it's a protected group. That's what I think. I think that's part of it. I mean, maybe it's not all of it. I mean, I understand that they want to have sports as an LGBTQ, and I'm okay with that. But why aren't you fighting to have LGBTQ sports as a separate thing instead of going after women's sports? That doesn't make any sense to me. We can have the other conversation, but don't go and take over. See, and the other thing I hate is that it's everything's segregated again. Why is everything being pushed back into groups?
Yeah,
in
I don't like
1980s, nobody wanted to be labeled in a group.
Martin Luther King.
Now it's like everybody wants to be a group.
Martin Luther King fought to break that.
He did.
And here we are going back into a let's segregate. And the primary figure trying to create that divisiveness is not the Republican Party. Now, you will hear a stronger stance against certain things about LGBTQ community and the things that they're fighting for that do not meet our values as a Republican Party. But as far as the melting pot idea of our republic, which is not we are not a democracy. We are a republic, which means we are constituted by laws, and we go about creating those laws in a democratic process where we vote and the people's voice matter. And I think that gets confused, twisted, wrapped up to meet that Marxism kind of line, and it's proven through and through. You split people up into groups. It's just like Hunger Games, right? Mm-hmm. They split people up into groups, and then those groups compete to be spotlighted or receive attention. Like you were saying, I want to be a group that's recognized, because then if I'm recognized as a group, then I'll get a little extra treatment, right? So it's this common thing of splitting us up in groups so that they could have better control over the people, and that's not what we were designed for. We are for the people, by the people, of the people, not split up as people, and then go from there. That's where I get confused. And then look at what we're doing to our presidents. Look at what we are doing to the office of the president, and how does that equate to a power as a nation across the other nations? I mean,
it's unfortunately the office of the president has been caught in this tug of war between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
this is what's happening. I'm a Republican. I
You don't say, Mark.
Well, I'm a Republican, and what I mean by that is that the Republican Party adheres to more of my principles than the Democratic Party does. Especially the more important principles that I have, like the right to life and things of that nature. But it is shoot. Sorry, just trying to log into this thing. But I'm a Republican because of those things. But at the same time, I can also see where the two parties have created this tension that is tearing down our democracy.
Mm-hmm.
It's tearing down our democracy because we're not in a we are not a democracy as much as we're a biocracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are a biocracy, which we have one large group here, and we have one large group here
Yep.
that are dominating all of the politics. And now, here's the kicker, or here's the problem. I cannot give up the Republican principles and leave the Republican Party to go start a third party or what have you.
Right.
Because if I do that, then the Democratic Party it'll become a monarchy, right? Because the Democratic Party, or I say monarchy, but not a monarchy, but a monocracy,
Mm-hmm.
if you will, right? Because it'll just be one party that will rule over all of them, and they will work, as we've seen, to try to eliminate the entire other party, so that they are the only party. This is what communism did in Russia. This is what the National Socialists did in Germany. This is what Mao did in China.
Right.
Right. This is their creed. This is what they do. This is their playbook.
Well, it's no secret that the Chinese are trying to be the world player right now economically. So
It's unclear whether or not they're going to be able to do it, because I think they felt like they had to start sooner than they were really ready.
Mhm.
So I think that it may not play out as quite as easily as they thought or hoped. But that's what that is their goal.
Right.
Their goal is to take over. I don't know why this is not working. This is so strange. They are absolutely trying to take over. They are absolutely trying to take over the world. They want to have they want their was it the Chinese yuan? Is that what it is? They they want it to be the world currency. So they're going to these smaller areas and things. I mean, let's get back to the other subject for just a minute, okay? Because I feel like we left that hanging out there, and
You're
there's
good. Keep going.
and we haven't been clear about it. Racism is absolutely wrong, right? It's abhorrent. I can't stand to hear people make racist comments. But on the flip side, not everything is racist, and it's become so. The airwaves and the media has become so full of this of the word racist for everything, and they say, well, it doesn't matter how you treat black people. It absolutely does. If you're a racist, you cannot stand to see a black person make it. You will do things in your power to tear them down.
Right.
Right? That's what a racist is.
That's absolutely right. It would be your constant effort is about, like, we pound our chest about being a Republican, right?
Yeah.
But it is like we would oppose the Democratic point of view. Now, I don't oppose a person who has a Democratic point of view as a person. I don't hate them. I don't loathe them. I don't go on a personal attack to remove them from society because their vote is what, or their attitude, their thoughts, their beliefs are what keep good conversation in line so that one side doesn't become all powerful. That was the
Right.
greatness of our republic, right?
Well, I mean, there weren't any parties in the beginning.
I
parties,
got that. I know.
parties grew quickly
Yes.
as what's
Opportunities
the word?
arose.
Well, what's the word? As caucuses, right? As Congress began to began to meet regularly in the beginnings of our country, they caucuses started building around each other. People who have like ideas and things, and so they would caucus together as a group, and then vote for each other's things.
Right.
That's really the beginnings of the party system as we know it. I mean, I get it. The Tories and things like that in England was really what started all that, but there weren't necessarily clear lines at the beginning. And
Right.
they quickly became lines, and they started drawing lines because really what you had the Jeffersons, the Jeffersonites, the ones that
Right.
followed Thomas Jefferson, and then you had the ones that were following Hamilton, right? So Jefferson couldn't stand Hamilton, right, in the beginning. So I was trying to put some numbers together here, but this laptop that I brought tonight, my Excel isn't
Sorry.
licensed, but
So there's nothing wrong with having the conversation about this, but the divisiveness that's created, right, is what's going on right now. I think the biggest problem that we see is they have legally taken action against a former seated president. Openly came out with, once he got in office, that he was going to do this. While in office, he himself comes up with evidence that he has, controlled documents that should not be kept.
they all
And
do.
it's I got it.
Every one of them.
I got it. But they are prosecuting the sitting one, or the former president, and not the current seated president. Nothing happened to Clinton. Nothing happened to Biden. It's open public information, and we look at the truth, and we see past the truth, but we see injustice occurring in front of us. These are the kinds of things that will split a nation. I can only imagine, given the amount of less information that they had during the 1700s when the Civil War occurred, and the fact that we have more information at our fingertips and facts in front of us, at how we will quickly look at the truth and not do anything about it, but will believe the injustice, and then destroy ourselves because it's okay for somebody, but it's not okay for the other one, and then still hold power in our country.
Because it has nothing to do with what they did. See, we think of things from a rule of law, where we think, okay, this is the law. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do this act, whatever it is.
It's okay for you to do it, but it's not okay for you to do it.
Well, it's not okay for anybody. To do that,
I agree.
right? We believe in the rule of law, but they don't care about the law.
That's what's making us.
They want a lawless society that they can control who gets what, because they believe, they've been taught that that's how this society has always been. That there's one group that's always been the ruling class, and that nobody is allowed to be in that class if you don't make this amount of money.
That's right.
And that is not really the case. There are a lot of people who are self-made people who became, who got involved in politics. There are elite rich people who got involved in politics to change things like slavery, to eliminate slavery. If the founding fathers, speaking like
I would love to
Jefferson,
interview one of them right
Jefferson
now.
and Washington and them, if it were left up to them, slavery would have been abolished immediately. Now, they were slave owners,
Yep.
right? And that kind of creates a conundrum. They did not free their slaves, right? And a lot of it had to do with the fact that they still had businesses and things they had to run that was built around the slave trade. That not slave trade, but around slave labor. And so they couldn't necessarily afford just to let them go and things like that. But that's a whole nother story. But
That was almost down a rabbit hole.
But it was really the fact that they wanted and were willing to eliminate slavery at the beginning. And when you think about it, the United States was really only about, if you count all the way back to 1776 at the Declaration, But what was 1881? Is 1881 we actually ratified the Constitution, something like that?
Yeah.
So you think that from 1881 to 1781 to 1864, right? When the slaves were, it was 1864.
Sure.
1864 when the well, we're getting ready to.
You're going.
Yeah. Anyway, the United States only had slavery for about 80 years, right? They didn't have it for 100 years as the United States. Now, of course,
And which party
England.
freed slavery?
the Republican
Oh,
Party
thank
was
you.
developed. The Republican Party was developed just simply with one plank in their platform, and that was to abolish slavery.
That's right.
That's what it was. The entire thing. History has been twisted. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. He was the first Republican president. There was an entire group of men from Ohio, upstate New York, Illinois,
Visionaries.
that were all they devoted their life to abolishing slavery. The book A Team of Rivals is about Lincoln and his up and coming. But I highly recommend that book. It's a great book. It talks about all the different players, and the reason it's called Team of Rivals, of course, is because Lincoln took all the people who ran against him for president and put them as part of his team, and they were all rivals. And it was genius on Lincoln's part.
So I want to change and flip the script. We've got a lot of candidates, and it's a diverse group of candidates: women, men, Black African American men, Indian men, from all different backgrounds. Women. Nikki Haley's running. Obviously, Donald Trump is in the top. We could talk about percentages. That all changes as things progress along. But, I've been very impressed with a lot of the campaign ads that Tim Scott's done lately.
I like Tim Scott
yeah,
a lot. I don't think he's going to win this, but man, I really would
whomever
love to
wins,
see him.
whomever wins, I would like if Tim Scott does not pull out and do some kind of miracle thing. I would like to see Tim Scott sitting on somebody's cabinet somewhere. You know what I mean? But a powerful man. But what was interesting to me this week was Vivek Ramaswamy. He came out, challenged everybody to sign an agreement that no matter what, because it's an absolute injustice. I agree. This is an absolute injustice that you're charging a former president with a crime that has been seen numerous times amongst the Democrats themselves and yet not be charged with the crime. This is just nonstop. What has Trump done that is so... I guess he's got them... he's got dirt on him or something, because they are ready to shut him up for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And they have leveraged the tools at their disposal to see things their way. It gets very confusing to me to watch this. I get very disturbed. I don't even watch the television, both sides. I don't.
It's hard.
It's hard to watch it unfold, and then we still don't get all the facts. I don't like that media pickles it apart to fit a narrative versus just give me can I just watch a news program? This just in, breaking news, the evidence unfolded that blah, 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 which violates this law, has been presented. No, I don't care whether you're Democrat, Republican. If that's the news, then tell both sides and what it is that's wrong about it and why it was broken, so that I can form my own opinion instead of going hour after hour after hour after hour after opinion. That we've talked about opinion so long that the fact isn't even still on the table. We're just talking about Donald Trump was indicted. I hope they get his ass. I don't want.
But that's the whole thing. It has nothing to do with what he did. It has all to do with the fact that they don't want him running. They do not want him in the election because they do fear him because he can rally. He can rally both sides of the aisle.
Sure.
And they fear that they made their case, but it's very hard to believe that Donald Trump would not that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election simply because of the circumstances of what he said.
Yeah.
Right? It's the thing is that the circumstances of how COVID came around and allowed them to change election law. That's why I don't say it was stolen. I'll say that that was fraud because, well, the fraud is the fraud that occurred would have been the fact that the states changed the election laws to allow
Sure.
more people to
Absentee vote.
and so the absentee vote
We're going to mail everybody a ballot, even though they don't ever show up.
Doing that was wrong because you say, well, everybody should vote. Yes, I do, but everybody should care enough to go vote.
So I'll tell you.
And what happened was those people went into. I'm going to just use Atlanta as a example.
Sure.
Because it's the one that's most prevalent. Is they voted? They mailed out all those ballots to everybody in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
And then the Democratic Party went through Atlanta door to door, and they helped them fill them out and turn them in. That's what That's what the whole 2,000 mules or whatever. That's really where that's kind of part of that problem. That's part of that network that they're talking about. It wasn't like they were all filling them out at their house and putting in a truckload of ballots. They were going to those doors where they had and helping them fill them out. Now you're not allowed to go into a ballot place and help somebody fill out a ballot, right? So why would you be able to go to their door and ask them, "Hey, did you get your ballot? Let me help you fill it out." Why would you be able to do that? Because only one person's going to be able to help them do that at one time. If you need help in Kentucky, at least, if you need help in filling out your ballot, a Republican and a Democrat have to go in there and help you, right? Not one person, not just from some paid organization.
That's not necessarily true at the nursing homes.
Well, it is. It is. I mean, it should be. It's.
I'm just talking
in.
about a recent election.
Well,
Yeah.
it's if it's a mail-in, well, that's what I'm saying is that there's nothing guiding that or nothing governing that process when you mail it to somebody's home. So it needs to be limited. If you care enough, if you want to go vote, there's absolutely no reason that you can't go vote, especially now that you can go and vote on multiple days, right?
Right.
If you can't make it on Monday, go on Tuesday. If you can't make it on Wednesday or Thursday, I think it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday here. So if you can't go on Thursday, you can go Friday. If you can't go on Friday, you can go Saturday. If you can't go Saturday, you can go on Election Day, right? If you have a valid reason that you can't, that you're going to be out of town or whatever, you can actually go vote in an early voting and make an appointment and go vote at the courthouse or what have you. That's the excuse part of it. If you are a military, so the mail-in ballots are for people who are not in state, the people who cannot get there. This was a misuse of a ballot.
What do you think will happen if there's any question about the legitimacy of a person's vote in this next campaign? If it's not clearly defined that this was won fair and square, if that doubt still exists.
You will never, ever hear it say it's fair and square. One side is always going to blame the other and say that you stole the election. That started with Hillary Clinton. And it did not start with Donald Trump. Everybody wants to say, "Oh, Donald Trump." No, Hillary Clinton never stopped talking about how she felt that Donald Trump stole the election in 2016, and that's the only reason she wasn't. Right? She never stopped talking about it. And well, you can go all the way back to Al Gore, really. Al Gore. And not everyone counted. Well, they counted them all 6 times. That's an exaggeration, but they counted them all, and then they wanted to go back and say, "Well, let me look at this one, and I think I can determine what these people meant to vote." Now, when you get to that level, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
That's what stopped. That's what they had to stop, and the Supreme Court stopped it because they were going in and they were saying, "Oh, well, once you ran it through 6 times, now the ballot is almost destroyed."
So here's because we're coming up to about the top of the hour. I want to kind of change in to talk about some of the Democratic candidates that are coming in.
Well,
I really
let's give the list of the Republicans real quick.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so we have Donald Trump, obviously. Nikki Haley, who's the former South Carolina governor.
yeah.
You have Vivek Ramaswamy. It's a hard one to pronounce, but he's an entrepreneur. He's the youngest. He's a former tech and finance CEO. And by the way, we really like him. He's got energy. He's got great ideas. And I think that he's going to go places. I think if it's not, I don't think it's going to be this election really because of the situation.
Sure.
But man, I would like to see him in the win.
Places to make a difference.
Places to make a difference. Yes. Asa Hutchinson, who is the former Arkansas governor. Tim Scott, we mentioned him. He's South Carolina senator. The only thing I hate about Tim Scott running is that we're already precarious in the Senate with numbers, and I don't want to. I really would rather him not. I'd rather him not give up a number. But man, I really like Tim Scott. Ron DeSantis, everybody knows him, Florida governor. Mike Pence, former vice president.
Sure. Chris Christie.
Chris Christie, Doug Burgum, and Francis Suarez. So Doug Burgum and Francis Suarez are the ones that just jumped in this last week. Chris Christie was a week or so ago. Chris Christie, Mike.
Still not too late to jump in for me, is it?
No, jump on in. We'll raise some money for you.
Okay.
It might be like $15, but we'll figure it out.
All right.
We'll
That'll
make
get me.
We'll stretch it.
Will that get me?
Yeah, it won't get you on a ballot.
That'll get me a boost post on Facebook.
Yeah, one.
All right.
Now, according to NPR.org, weighing their options are Glenn Youngkin, governor of Virginia. I really hope he doesn't jump in because I like him as governor of Virginia. Kristi Noem, who's the governor of South Dakota.
Liz Cheney,
former Wyoming congresswoman. I don't know why she would jump in.
She's the one that stirred the pot against Trump.
So she's the one that lost her Wyoming seat in Congress because she's the one that was the.
Yeah, but if she goes into that, she's going to bring Daddy.
She was the Democratic's puppet for getting things, getting him under investigations and such. So, and the former National Security Advisor John Bolton, he's also says that he's weighing his options. I don't know why John Bolton would get in. Sometimes there's people who just want to who just want to say, "Hey, I gave it a shot."
So I'm tracking ruled out as Chris Sununu, Rick Scott, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, and then Mike Pompeo. Interesting story. Mike Pompeo went to West Point with former Secretary of the Army, as Secretary of Defense, and several others that I've seen in circles. But great dude. He was amazing as a Secretary of State.
Yeah.
I thought he was a great candidate under Trump for really, holding power and being a deterrent as a nation. I think he did a phenomenal job. His knowledge and background in military affairs and just matters of state were just phenomenal. But I'm kind of glad to see that they're ruled out.
I have a lot of respect for Mike Pompeo, and I'd like to see him run for something. I just don't. Yeah. I don't know.
This is not timing matters.
I think that some of these are about, hey, I know it's not my time, but I'm putting my name in. So because Mike Pompeo is only 59, that's still kind of young.
Sure.
Obviously, in 4 years he'd be 63, and who knows? He might be a good one to tap for. Vice president, but I think really one of these others. I think he would make a good one. But I really think that whoever comes out is going to probably pick one of these other candidates to help shore up the base and such. So right now, Donald Trump is running away with it in the polls. But Ron DeSantis, I believe, has made up a little bit of ground. But it's a long, long, long way to go.
I was really surprised to see Chris Christie jumping in.
I don't know. I'm not a big Chris Christie fan. I think that he is he was like the Donald Trump before Donald Trump. You know, he was the mouth. He was the one that was always saying the edgy things, and then Trump got in, and now Trump's he's that guy. So on the national, I'm looking on the Real Clear Politics now. Trump, the national averages for polls, Trump's leading 52, Ron DeSantis at 21.6%, Pence is at 4.9, and Nikki Haley is at 3.6. Those are your top four nationally. Looking at Iowa, Iowa's coming up, or will be the first one. Iowa, New Hampshire. So Trump's at 46 to DeSantis 24.7. So DeSantis doing a little bit better in Iowa, and New Hampshire, Trump 42.7, DeSantis 21. So some of the others are doing a little bit better against her. Tim Scott shows up as the number 4 in New Hampshire. So yeah, like I said, I'm a big Tim Scott fan. I like Tim's or Mr. Scott's. I like his roots. I like how he's humble and stays grounded to his roots and to his family. Understands the lessons that were learned from the previous generations. Has lived through racism. What was what I would consider more real racism than what we see today. Again, not saying that there's not things that happen. But I think there's more people who agree that we need to eliminate that today than ever before.
Yeah.
And so this is not an issue of racism. It's an issue of
equality.
They want equal outcomes. They think that everybody should be the same, which is a communist idea. It's an absolute communist idea. And when you do that, everybody loses.
Everybody should have the same opportunities, which they do.
Yes.
But we're not going to create new opportunities just because you want to identify something else or regroup us. But hey, let me switch.
Go ahead and switch gears, because I brought you back into that, but I wanted to.
I want to go back.
We talked about that a little bit.
I want to go democratically, right? Okay, so Joe Biden, right, incumbent. He declared already April 25th that he's running. And that's just a precursor, according to staff, that, in case he decides not to do it. But if he does, would Kamala stay as the vice president? Typically that happens, right? Unless there's some other degree. And then right now, Moraine Williamson, and then Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't care who else jumps into this plat. I think Gavin Newsom's in there, potentially Kamala, maybe. I don't know. It depends on how this all rolls out.
I mean, I doubt Kamala would, because
I don't really.
Kamala would be in line as to take over as president if he chooses her as his vice president.
If you could imagine,
and I don't see him changing at this point.
If you could imagine that I was actually a Democrat and wearing blue in front of you today, and that I loved you like a brother, I would honestly say I like Robert F. Kennedy. I'm not going to vote for him. But if I was a Democrat,
I mean, most people feel that Robert F. Kennedy. Most people feel that John F. Kennedy would be a Republican today, not a Democrat.
Well, and that's why I say, if you look at his campaign positions, dismantle the censorship industrial complex in which big tech censors, kill the algorithms, transform the police, train them in de-escalation and mediation skills, and partner them with neighborhood organizations. He's not saying get rid of them. He's saying we need police, but we need to do better, right? Which is a stance I haven't heard from the majority of the Democratic population. They're the far, crazy Democrats are like, no, ban the police, all that stuff, right? And then lead the way toward national reconciliation, take racial healing seriously through a program of targeted community repair. And I agree, some of our communities need repair. I could get behind that.
Yes, I can too. I believe that there should be made more opportunities in these urban areas.
Let's stop the cycle.
Yeah,
let's kill it.
How do we do that?
Well, we gotta go fight drugs.
Well, no, I mean we don't. I don't think you're going to do it through fighting drugs. I think you fight drugs by rehabilitating the inner cities, right? By by putting.
But it's not just in inner cities.
It's mostly. I mean, mostly mostly what we're talking about are urban versus rural.
Sure.
You come out to the rural areas, you don't see nearly as much.
I would say
of a conflict
poverty
out here that you do in the cities.
But you do see poverty in rural areas as well.
Of course, but
though-
we don't care much about it. We don't.
as a population, no, we don't. Not as much as the way
I'm
the
talking about
mass.
the people who are in poverty.
Yeah.
We don't. I mean, I grew up in poverty.
Yeah, I know.
We didn't care about it.
I'm not disagreeing
We
with
didn't
that.
think we were
But
poor.
when there's a whole bunch of people stacked on top of each other, which I guess is why you're going
That's
after
where
the
I'm
big
going.
cities. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Exactly. When you're out here, there's room to grow. You can see opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But in the inner cities, where people have chosen to be,
Mm-hmm.
you choose to be there. You don't think people don't feel that they have a choice but to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But you do, because out here, I out here, I say out here in the rural
Mm-hmm.
areas. Well, I mean, Brandenburg's starting to grow, and eventually we're just going to be a suburb.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
and
bold statement at our meeting on Monday night. Troy's expectation is, 2050, 60,000, go from 30 to 60. That's a bold statement when you look at
it's tough to chew.
Chew.
But
scary.
it is scary because I don't know if you're going to get to 60,000 even by 2050. It's been a long time just to get to 30.
But I get his point, though. He
I
was
do.
saying plan for 60,
Plan for 60
so
and-
that the
and-
infrastructure's in place and we're not playing catch up like we are right now.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I love the things that Troy says and the things that he's working to. His methodology is I'm looking 20 years down the road. I'm looking 20 years down the road. I'm looking 20 years down the road. I'm not looking at tomorrow. I'm trying to take care of tomorrow, but as best we can. But we should have been looking at tomorrow 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we didn't because, well, we just didn't. We're an old farming community.
Yeah.
Rural. We didn't know that we were going to. We didn't feel like we were going to have these big city problems. Right. These
Yeah.
are.
So here's my wish for this year's campaign.
Okay.
My wish for this
For
year's
2024.
for 2024, as we get first of all, we got a general
governor
election.
again.
We got a governor race that's coming.
We're not. We got a whole nother.
Yeah.
We need to get back on that topic.
Well, I don't want to get us too raveled because we're coming up on the top of the hour. At the end of the day, what I hope for this 2024 leap into the future, obviously we need to get out there as Republicans and pound the doors and get behind our candidate, Daniel Cameron. He is the Republican nominee for governor of the state of Kentucky. I believe that he is going to carry us a strong foot forward with all of our values and our beliefs.
Absolutely.
I think that we get the rest of that group of Republicans that were running in the primary behind the train and on the train and start moving Kentucky forward in order to prepare for that 2024 that's about to come upon us, because that divisiveness that is at the national level will creep into our counties as we know it as a state if we do not get in line with stopping this, right? And what I wish for in a 2024 campaign is that we can see, the tap of the gloves, the referee in the middle of the fight, and everybody watch a fair fight. I am so disgusted with the spinoffs of news media. I wish that we could just turn off news media and watch a grassroots campaign unfold, and then people go to the polls and vote, and just, but it's not going to happen. We know it's not going to
it's not.
happen. Everywhere
Because-
you turn.
I think that one of the biggest things that came out of the 2016 election when Donald Trump won is the news media said, "Oh my God, we don't control the election. We don't control the narrative. Donald Trump beat us on social media." And I think it scared
Well,
them.
the Democrats are already taking a lead on that right now. They are marketing to all these TikTokers that are influencers that have huge followings. It's brilliant marketing strategy. And these youthful voters, this is going to be a rock the vote thing that you're going to see come back in the Democratic Party. And if the Republican Party does not start to sit down and have conversations with these influencers to explain why, these TikTokers are going to take their money and they're going to run because people are following them and they're getting paid They're getting paid. They could care less what comes out of their mouth
Yeah.
as long as they're getting
As
paid.
long as they're getting a paycheck. I mean,
And at 20 years old, when you have a following of 350,000, there is an ego that comes with that at a 21-year-old age group, right?
Yep.
Or an influencer. And, they say influencers should peak at around 30 and all that other stuff. But it's hard to determine what the TikTok, Snapchat, social media generation that has come to instant fame through Twitch, Twitter, all of these things will do, and how that motivates our environment. I laugh because I think about a movie that I watched several years ago. It was the whole world. This guy's in a time machine and he comes back and wakes up in a capsule, and the world is chaos and anybody can be president. And it's just I'll have to look that up. I forgot it already, but. We don't need a world of chaos, and we need a nation that lives by its laws.
yeah,
So,
that's right.
so a couple things coming up. Mark, want to transition us into the themes fair
Well, first of all, there is a
meeting.
there is a meeting on Monday, but before that, there is a grassroots kickoff over in Hardin County. So anybody that's over in Hardin County. They're going to be doing, I think, a big door-to-door on
For Daniel
at 9
Cameron.
a.m. I think they're going to kick off out at American Legion Park at 1801 North Miles Street in Elizabethtown.
Yep.
And that's going to be 9 a.m. on Saturday the 17th. Of course, I'm out of town. I'm not going to be able to be there. But we have put this out on our group text over here in Meade County, just to make sure that we anybody that wants to go out and help and such.
Sure.
So we are working on putting together something in Meade County for later in the election, somewhere around the August timeframe.
Sure.
We're trying to nail down a date for that right now. We want to do a rally. We'd like to get all the candidates here. That's what we're working towards. But specifically, we want to make sure Daniel Cameron's here. We want to make sure that Meade County is part of the conversation, and we're trying to make sure that they're going to come out here and Daniel's going to. I think he's going to be here for the fair. I think he's going to at least walk in the parade. He may come back for one day in the week, but I don't think it's going to be easy in the schedule. One, he's still our attorney general, so he still has a job to do.
Absolutely.
And he's running for
Yeah,
governor.
he's got a job to do because he's got all these lawsuits against the current governor.
Yeah. So,
kidding.
from the current governor. Yeah. And just on a note on that, Daniel Cameron, and the last poll done for on Kentucky governor, I'm on Real Clear Politics again. I always go there for my polls because they usually gather all the polls in and then do an average. But this is by the Signal CYGNAL poll. Looks like they're doing many polls, quite a few polls this year, and it's Kentucky Governor Cameron versus Kentucky Governor Daniel Cameron versus Beshear, and it shows now Beshear and Cameron are tied at 47 apiece.
Wow.
And I'm looking at this going, listen, I think that if Daniel Cameron or a Republican candidate, if we're even, we're leaving. Right, because I think Daniel Cameron's going to work his tail off.
Sure.
And that's going to he's going to grow a gap there over the next 3 to 4 months.
I hope so.
As we approach the election. So I really feel that. I feel that But listen, we got to get every Meade County voter, every Meade County Republican, and anyone that votes Republican. We need to get them to the polls because we need to come out.
Has he announced who he's going to have for lieutenant governor yet?
I don't think it's going to happen until
Closer?
the July, August timeframe.
Daniel, I put my name in the hat for the lieutenant governor position. I'm just saying.
I second the nomination.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So
All right.
that's our little joke.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe it's a joke. Maybe
You never
it's
know.
Not,
I'll
if he
ask him.
tapped you,
I'll ask him next time and say, hey,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I'm sure we'll have that information.
I'd like to interview for the job.
Yeah, absolutely. So the polls, like I said, we're close. It's even, and so on. So another topic that's come up, and maybe we'll have a meeting or a podcast about this, is that there's we just met one of the people that are going to run for constable
Sure.
We don't have a special election, but there is going to be a constable on the ballot for our November race for District 4, because there was a gentleman in that position, and he has retired from the position. So, yes, he was just elected in November.
He actually took on a full-time employment job in law enforcement
Yes.
as a result of his constable.
Exactly. So he's technically retiring from the constable position and moving over to, I think, a full-time deputy or something, a part-time deputy maybe. Anyway, it's kind of a parallel move, and because of that, you cannot be in law enforcement. You can't be a member of law enforcement and a constable. So you can do one or the other. Well, constable doesn't pay anything in the state of Kentucky. It's a position of
Honor.
and it does have an SOP, right? You do have
Rules and regulations.
and you do have some duties as a constable. However, that's another subject for another day, because I can probably do an hour on whether or not we should have a constable or we should give them more power. That's my take on it. Either give them more power and make them something that's really viable, or you do away with the position. But anyway, so we're going to have this on the ballot, District 4, and so we're going to have to meet and put. That's going to be on November ballot. And so it's kind of something new for us as the Republican Party. We've got to nominate someone for that position, and so we're going to be working on that. So over the next couple of months, we will choose a nominee, and we're looking into who's interested in that. So, and so we're going to go through that process. It's going to be kind of neat. In my opinion, it's kind of cool to kind of as these things happen, you learn. You get. This is also bringing up an opportunity for us to maybe bring Susan Masterson back on, because she's had a lot of these type of things happen. We have the city of Muldrow, right? The mayor resigned, and that creates a new election. That creates a new election, even though they appointed a new mayor. That mayor is only temporary until the next election cycle.
That's right.
Right. So this coming November, that's going to have to be on the ballot in Muldrow. And then
I saw one little firecracker there that should probably run for that office that was at the town hall. But
yeah. So I don't know how they do the nominations for that, because it's not a partisan race, so we won't know exactly how that works. But anyway, we're learning, and we're figuring these,
and we're trying to educate you as well. Yeah.
And so while we're learning, we'll be talking to you guys about this, about how these processes work, and it's interesting. It's a very, very interesting time. So there's a few of those things out there. It might be good for us to have Susan back on here in the coming weeks, just to kind of talk about some of the things that she's learned in the position since she's been there. So. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, so we have the Meade County Fair. Meade County Fair, the last full week of, I think it's the 23rd. Well, I think is the parade on the 23rd or the 22nd, whatever that Sunday is. And so we will be broadcasting, or we'll have our podcast
at the
fair. We've got our booth settled. Well, we have to pay for it. It's something I have to do on Monday, is get the checks and things for that. But then we're going to be out there. We're going to have our own booth next to the Republican Party booth, and we're going to have all that decorated. We invite you guys to come out and visit with us, say hello. And we would like to, maybe
you'll be able to see the logo.
We might even interview a couple of you. Who knows? So we'll
there you go. Live broadcast.
Yeah.
Hey, so just shout out a couple of great articles in the paper. The reason why I want to highlight is because there is a lot of activity going on in the county as a result of Judge Koch's election. There's they were talking about the not the transportation, the recycling center turning profits for the county as a result of some of these innovations that have been coming coming out in some of the local meetings, and it was great to see some coverage of that. Animal Control Shelter, which I obviously chair, and some activities going for improvement there while we continue to find a good landing spot. But at the end of the day, folks, there's a lot of things to, we're just scratching surfaces here to get you spurred up to look for the information. We'll provide as much as we know and from what we do in our research. But man, at the end of the day, we ask you to get out there, look things up. Research what they're talking about in the news. Get away from the opinion and lay the facts out. Yeah. It's going to be a critical time for our country. And the choices we make and how we represent ourselves at the polls. And we've got to show up. We've got to show up to vote, and we've got to counter the tactics and the procedures that are going on to be represented. And I know I've heard it a lot. Well, my vote doesn't count. My vote doesn't matter. And I'll tell you, after the year and a half, after the last 2 years of being heavily involved in this process and putting my other hat on, and walking away from something I've done for a long time and then picking this up and believing in my values and exercising my full right as a citizen of the United States, I will tell you that citizenship in your local community, citizenship in your nation matters.
Absolutely.
And it starts with that vote. That vote is your voice. We can all get on platforms like this and we can really, blast our voice out there. Maybe one person listen, maybe two people listen. Maybe we get the 1,100 to 1,500 viewers after. But that vote is millions. And I tell you, go out there and do it. The whole process is exciting. It's important. And I believe it's a civic duty. I honestly think you should get a deduction on your taxes for being a voter. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's my story. I'm going to stick to it. Mark, close us out.
All right, so thanks everybody for listening to us tonight. I know we got a little controversial at the beginning of the night. We're just trying to say, all we're trying to say is that
let's become united.
Let's come back together. We worked very hard for a long time to come together as a nation for all people, to give as much opportunity to each individual as possible. And because some people want to be elected to office, they've started tearing us all back apart. And putting us into groups, and let's not let that happen. That's the point of what we were trying to say at the beginning of this podcast, and that it's really a shame that we've gotten to that point, but we can turn it around.
Let's make a difference.
And so, thank you all again for listening to us. We're having our Republican Party meeting on Monday. It'll be here at the train station. What we call the train station, which is right. Out here on Brandenburg Road, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
All right. Thanks,
Take care.
Steve.
Have a good night.